Steph motherfucking Curry. Stephen fucking Chef Curry. Hell yeah. Hell yeah. What a performance. What a performance by Stephen Curry. Just a masterclass type performance, a legendary type performance in the TD Garden in front of those nauseating, disgusting ass Celtic fans. They fucking came into there and said, we're going to win this game and tie it up. And they did that. I had no doubt they would do it yesterday. I kind of had a little bit of doubt when they were down 10 in that first quarter, I heard, but still, Warriors got the job done. They won by 10, 107-97. Huge win. Huge performance again by Steph Curry, 43 points. Let me read his stat line because he was incredible. Legendary performance. Carried the team to tie the series going back to the Bay. Let me see. So Curry right here. 43 points, 10 rebounds, 4 assists in 41 minutes. Huge performance by Steph Curry. He was huge in this game. Carried the team basically on his back. Obviously had a little help there in that fourth quarter from other players, from the others. But at the same time, he was huge. He's clearly the best player on the floor. Willed his team to victory in Boston in a tough environment. So huge performance by Steph Curry. Also want to give a shout out to Andrew Wiggins. He had a double-double, 17 points, 16 rebounds. 16 rebounds are his career high for any type of game, but in particular a playoff game. 16 rebounds for Andrew Wiggins, so he was huge. He had some huge putbacks in the fourth quarter for the Warriors. You also look at the fact that, Draymond Green, even though he didn't have a huge scoring night, all around, he played pretty well. 9 rebounds, 8 assists. I think he had a couple of huge offensive rebounds there in the fourth quarter. He may not have wired you with the scoring, but he did all around game-wise. He was pretty good tonight. Last night, I should say. You look at Klay Thompson, 18 points. It wasn't efficient, but he hit some huge threes in that fourth quarter. You look at Jordan Poole. He came off the bench, gave him 14. He was huge in this game. For the Warriors. So you look at Jordan Poole, he was huge off the bench. You look at the fact that Curry went off for 43. It was huge, very huge. Because look, if the Warriors were down 3-1, they ain't gonna win this series. I wouldn't be surprised if the Celtics choked the 3-1 lead, but at the same time, I just didn't see the Warriors realistically coming back from 3-1. So this was a huge win. Probably might be the most important win for them of the season. For the Warriors. They just showed toughness in this game. They showed their hustle in this game. They just literally willed themselves to victory last night to give themselves to tie the series up at 2 apiece going back to San Francisco. As I look at the stat sheet here, you look at the stat lines, you look at both teams, you look at the 3-point line, you look at some interesting things I look at, but to me, the rebounding, Golden State out-rebounded Boston by 13. The offensive rebounds, Golden State have more than Boston. You look at, I also look at things like points in the paint. Golden State outscored them in the paint as well. And so stuff like that. So the rebounding to me was also key too. There was some huge offensive rebounds that Golden State had, especially in the fourth quarter. Even though Boston's size has given Golden State some problems in which they've had, they were able to rebound the ball better last night. They were also able to score in the paint better last night because of that as well. So, it was huge to see those things happen because Golden State, the reason they basically lost because of the rebounding, because of the offensive rebounding, and because of points in the paint. They just get beat up in those statistical categories. And so that was huge for them to get a little advantage last night. Especially because they didn't really shoot particularly well. They were 34% from 3. 44% from the field. That's not too bad. They didn't really shoot particularly well, but at the same time, they got a couple offensive rebounds that gave them a chance. So, that was a huge for the Golden State Warriors, huge for Stephen. Like I said, he was Chef Curry last night, cooking the Boston Celtics defense up. He just literally carried the team last night. Klay Thompson hit big shots in the fourth, obviously. You look at Andrew Wiggins, he had some big time putbacks. That's true. I mean, Draymond Green had a huge offensive rebound at the end of that fourth quarter, with basically maybe like a minute to go. So I mean, but listen, obviously, this game really changed though. With the probably like 7 minutes to go when Boston was up by 4. It looked like Boston might win, might go up 3-1, but it changed when Steve Kerr made this bold decision saying, "You know what? I'm gonna sit out Draymond Green and go with this group." I think he had like Jordan Poole, Curry, Thompson, Wiggins, and Looney on the floor, which to me honestly made sense. Looney was basically more effective than Draymond, and you saw a change. I mean, we saw Klay Thompson hit a big time three. You saw Wiggins have some two big time putbacks. So you saw her have some big time putbacks. Like that was huge. Like that was huge. So I mean, like that, and you also look at a couple plays where Wilson got some big time stops. They got some big time rebounds. They made sure they rebounded because, like, even though there was a couple plays where last night where Golden State had stops, but there were times where Boston gave them out hustled them at times. So the fact that at the end of the game, especially in that fourth quarter down the stretch, they got stops, but they also finished it up with rebounds. So that was huge for Golden State. So considering because they're basically a tiny team in the front court, so that was huge. And Steph Curry again, like he was huge, made some big time shots. To me, that kind of upset me was like when he made these like overcomplicated passes. But I thought he fixed that at the end where he didn't do too much. He just made the game simple for his teammates. So I just thought Steph was huge last night. 43 points, 10 rebounds. I mean, it was huge. Um, so it was just huge last night. It was amazing. Now let's go to the Boston side. I mean, obviously, it's really warming to my heart to see those fucking Celtics fans leave early when Golden State was up at the end of the game, basically looking like it was over. Um, you look at, first of all, those fucking nauseating fans. I'm glad they lost. I'm glad they got their hearts broken last night, thinking that they were going to win, but they weren't. They weren't going to win anyway. So you look at it, to me, it was okay. Look, obviously, you guys know. I mean, look, the Celtics fans are just overrated, in my opinion. But let's get away from them. Let's talk about the Celtics. I mean, Jason Tatum, he wasn't really that efficient last night. Yes, he did have 23 points, but he had a lot of shots. I think it was like on 19 shots. You look at Jaylen Brown, 21 points, but that was also on 19 shots. I think actually no, 23 points for Tatum, but he had 23 shots. He only made 8 of them. You look at Brown, he had 21 points, but he had 19 shots. So you look at both those guys. Both those guys were inefficient. Both those guys also turned the ball over a couple of times, especially down the stretch last night. You know, you also look. I mean, Derek White, he did provide some good help from the bench. Marcus Smart had 18. Sure, that wasn't that bad, but Boston didn't shoot particularly well last night. They shot like 40% from the field. So I mean, that had a factor, and they turned the ball over 15 times, which had a factor in the game. So you look at Boston, they turned the ball over. They weren't really that efficient, especially at the end of games. I just feel like when you look at close game situations, Boston just doesn't really, I wouldn't say execute, but just they sometimes just get lackadaisical. They always run the shot clock down. They either turn the ball over or just make bad shots. So to me, I think that's just a point guard thing. They don't really have a true point guard that can like organize the offense. Like I love Marcus Smart. He's a defender. He's a dog. He can shoot the three. He can make some big time shots. He can make big time offensive rebounds. But he ain't like a point guard. He doesn't get like just good to organize you offensively. They don't really have that. I mean, Tatum and Brown, as great as they are scorers, it's not like they're great facilitators. So, or even great guys that can just make other guys better. Not to say those guys can't make other guys better, but they sometimes do too much at times, and they always dribble themselves into a crowd, and they make like over complicated plays. So I mean, look, we've seen both these teams in the playoffs. First of all, Boston, they're 7-0 after a loss. You look at Golden State, they're 6-0 loss. Both these teams have proven they can respond after losses, and so Boston, they had never lost back to back in these playoffs. Same thing with Golden State. So we'll see what happens next game. But Game 5 will definitely be very interesting to see which team responds. And Boston, we know they've been capable of winning multiple games on the road. We saw they win. I mean, they've been great on the road in these playoffs. They won twice in Brooklyn. They've won twice in Milwaukee. They won 3 times, unfortunately, to my Miami Heat. So they're clearly capable of going into the Bay Area in San Francisco and getting there and getting a dub. So they're clearly capable of doing that. I mean, they got the mentality, they got the formula too. They got great defense, so that helps defenses travel on the road. So Boston is a pretty elite team on the road compared to They played in front of that nauseating fucking Celtics fan base. But I just think this was a huge game. For the Miami Heat. I mean, to go in there and win was huge. It's just huge. It just shows, say, the toughness, the championship experience. I mean, they played like a championship team, especially the way they closed the game. So they played championship level basketball there tonight. So it was a huge game. I wasn't surprised at all last night that Golden State tied the series. It was kind of nerve wracking when Boston was up 4 with 7 minutes to go, but Golden State responded, and they were huge in this game. Draymond Green. I watched his podcast today. I'm glad that he was happy with his guys tonight. Even though he didn't play well, particularly, understands that he'll play better. He understands that. But he understands that he had also a pretty good all-around game. His scoring didn't really show up on the stat sheet, but the other things he did was huge in this game. So, I believe Draymond Green is going to play better. I have no doubt. And Klay Thompson is going to be much better going back home. And we know Golden State is very good at home, especially from the home crowd. I know it's San Francisco. It's still in the Bay Area. And we know there's a lot of Warriors fans in the Bay Area. So I think it's going to be packed Monday. So for Game 5, it's going to be huge. It's going to be obviously going to be a long flight back. When you look at the Warriors going back from Boston to San Francisco, that's a long flight. But luckily it's going to be Monday, so obviously we'll get some rest, some time. But great win for the Golden State Warriors. I'm so happy. I'm so happy those fucking Celtics fans got their misery of losing this one. And like I said, this was huge. And Stephen Curry went in there and just silenced that fucking Celtics fan base. Just happy for the Warriors, happy for that team. I'm glad my prediction's alive here. My prediction's alive here. The Warriors, like I said, they're still my team to win this series.